starting in just a few minutes on Washington Street on the north side of the mansion. Exhibitors, if you have won an award, please report to your vehicles to prepare for the Pass and Review. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to introduce our Master of Ceremonies and voice of the Concours delegates at Copshaholm, Bill Rothermel, along with Chief Judge Matt Short.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. Copshaholm number 8. And they haven't taken care of this out. We've been here since the beginning. And we had an interesting conversation during the judges' meeting this morning. This is the biggest show field we've ever had at Copshaholm in terms of the number of cars, but I think it's fair to say probably the best.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a challenging field for us. We had 20 judges, and I put them all to work. So I would say not only a big field, but excellent.
It's, you know, as judges, I think it's very easy for all of us to complain that it took longer, or it was taxing, or it was difficult, but that's the sign of a good show field. So the better the cars are, the longer it takes, the harder it is, and the more the judges grade.
Right, and the happier we are, truth be told. So we had a tremendous group helping us today. We had historians, collectors, museum professionals, designers, and just a great group and big group.
And you did a great job as always, as we're going to see the results of what Matt and the team of judges did. And Matt, there he is back here. He will also just go over the names of the judges, so we will thank the judges in advance for being here.
Thank you so much.
Matt, thank you.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2026 Concours d'Elegance at Copshaholm. And as Bill was saying, we wanted to thank our judges who devoted their time, talent, and expertise this morning to review this fantastic field of cars. Of course, you just met our Chief Judge, Matt Short. I'm Matt Anderson, Curator of Transportation at the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan. I had the honor of serving as a judge this morning. Also Dan Badger, automotive author and historian. Bob Barr, who is a past president of the Society of Automotive Historians. Don Capps, an automotive scholar and author, also a past president of the Society of Automotive Historians. Bob Casey, retired curator of transportation at the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan. Tom Cotter, author and historian, and host of Haggerty's Barn Find Hunter web series. Paul Down, retired professor of industrial design at the University of Notre Dame. Ken Maruzzi, past president of the Auburn Court-Duesenberg Club. Stu Morris, curator of America's Packard Museum in Dayton, Ohio. Greg Ornazanian, proprietor of Extrusion Punch and Tool Incorporated, and an automotive author and historian. My colleague here, Bill Rothermel, automotive author and historian and past director of the AACA Museum. Mary Seelhorst, automotive exhibit developer and 24 Hours of Lemons Racing Team captain. And yes, that is Lemons, not Le Mans. Rob Signum, executive director of America's Packard Museum in Dayton, Ohio. Jeff Shively, automotive author and historian. Sarah Schumacher, uplifter specialty, Ford Pro, and trustee of the Studebaker National Museum. Paula Powell-Sordon, exhibit lead, General Motors Heritage Center. Richard Vaughn, automotive designer, author, and historian. And Ruben Verdez, treasurer, Society of Automotive Historians, and a past president of the Rolls-Royce Owners Club. Please join me in giving a round of applause to our judges.
I'd also like to point out that the judges have come far and wide to be here and traveled quite a bit. Fortunately, we all made it. It was good. We didn't have airline weather delays and things like that, so we're rather fortunate. Yesterday also was the first Automotive History Conference sponsored by the Society of Automotive Historians. So there was a full day of programs from various and sundry people who came out and talked about historical and automotive related history subjects, which was something new. We had a Concours de Lemons, as you heard Matt say. It is not Concours de Le Mans, it's Lemons. So, I'm saying that and challenging everybody to bring your junk next year. And I mean, the worst it can be is what we want to see. Best of show is actually worst of show. It would not be anything that would be on the field here today, but it's all done in the interest of being lighthearted and being humorous and whatnot. And think of the worst car that you can think of. If you have it, bring it next year, the day before, for Concours de Lemons.
That's right. I believe our worsted show winner yesterday was a Geo Metro of some kind. So that gives you an idea of the caliber of automobile featured on the Lemons field.
That paints the picture perfectly, precisely. One other thing we'd like to do, since I'm looking directly at them, is thank Jack Boyd Smith, the JBS collection, his wife Laura, the LaVine family, I'm looking at Vivian right now, for their sponsorship of this event. They have also been with us from the beginning, and they're really instrumental in the success of the Concours at Copshaholm here today. I want to ask a question. Did anybody see a car today they've never seen before? Applaud. I asked that question because, you know, I've done so many of these events, and I think this is my 203rd time that I've been at the podium. And every time I go to an event, I see things that I've never seen before at an event like this. And I saw several cars today. There's a 58 Pontiac over here that has a sun visor that is up in the roof of the car, and you pull it down over the windshield and put it back up. It was an actual factory option in 1958. I have never seen that on a car before. Just very interesting things like that. So hopefully you all got to see something you enjoyed, got to see something different, and learn something. I'm hoping I'm seeing our first car about to turn the corner here. Am I correct?
I think we're getting close. And yeah, to your point, some wonderful rare vehicles out there today. The Rickenbacker turned my head early this morning. That's a car made in Detroit, but certainly with Indiana connections. We think of Eddie Rickenbacker owning Indianapolis Motor Speedway for many years.
And it's clad in copper, which is something you don't typically see. What you may not realize is when they chrome a car, copper is actually part of the process when the car is chromed. So that is actually what is typically underneath it you don't get to see. Now I understand if you haven't seen it, it's just off about 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock to us. Very unusual, very interesting car. Okay, do we have cars?
We are getting ready, and I believe we're going to start with our Junior Judging Award. And I want to introduce Christina Barroso-Burrell and or Adam Torring, if they're available, as well as if you are one of the junior judges who helped select this car, please come join us up here in the street.
Any of the kids that judge, please come on up. We'd like to take your picture with the cars. Matt, if you tell us who our owner is and what our car is, and then I'll talk a little bit about it.
Absolutely. Here it comes, our winning car from the Studebaker Junior Judging Award, number E43, a 1931 Duesenberg Model J convertible coupe with a Murphy body. Brought to us today, courtesy our friends at the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Automobile Museum. And I see the executive director, Brandon Anderson, at the wheel.
Brandon has a great job. Let's call it what it is. He gets to drive some pretty cool cars. You heard Matt say this is a Duesenberg J. This is not the first car that the Duesenberg brothers produced. Their first car was a Model A, then a Model X, then a Model J. The J was really built at the behest of Eric LaVine Cord. E.L. Cord owned the Duesenberg Automobile Company. The Duesenberg brothers were not particularly good businessmen. They were German immigrants who came to the United States and set about building race cars. They were extremely talented, but they were terrible business people. E.L. Cord bought the company and told them, I want you to build me the best automobile, cost to be damned. He didn't care what it cost. This is in the middle of the Depression in 1931. The stock market crash, of course, was in 1929. This car, let me just back up, a Ford Model A in 1929 was about $450. Just the chassis of this car was $7,500. So that was the engine, the running gear, the transmission, driveline, etc., up to the cow of the car, $7,500. The car was then sent to the coach builder of your choice and had a body put on the car of your design and your choice. And the cars cost upwards typically of $15,000 to $20,000. This car has a body by Walter Murphy in Pasadena, California. Murphy was the most prolific builder of all Duesenberg bodies. They built more than any other company. About 70 of the 435 Duesenbergs have Murphy bodies on it. This was called a disappearing top convertible. So if you look behind Brandon where the convertible top would stack, it actually went below the body of the car, which gave it this very, very sleek and sexy look. Nice job to all of our junior judges. You guys have excellent taste. I would hire you as my judges any day. Great choice. Thank you very much. Beautiful car.
Excellent. We thank our junior judges who a few decades from now will be the ones judging the cars on the field. I'm sure some of them will be owning a few of the cars on the field a few decades from now. And our next class, folks, Class L, the GTO, Gran Turismo Omologato, underwritten by Barb and John Fair. And our first champion prize winner is not actually able to go through pass and review, but we want to announce him just the same. L102, a 1966 Pontiac GTO convertible, brought to us today, courtesy Ron Whiteford. Our second champion winner is L104, a 1967 Pontiac GTO convertible, brought to us courtesy Ken Smesser.
Okay, you heard Matt say this is Gran Turismo Omologato. This was kind of a joke or a play on words because there was a Ferrari that actually was a GTO. In fact, by today's standards, the most expensive vintage automobile on the planet. They sell upwards of $60 million for one car. Pontiac general manager, which was John DeLorean, you all are familiar with the DeLorean automobile, he was head of Pontiac. The guy that was head of Pontiac's ad agency was a guy by the name of Jim Wangers, and the two of them concocted this car. They took the mid-sized Le Mans, which was an intermediate-sized car, new for 1964. They dropped in the biggest engine that they were able to put in at that time, which was a 389 cubic inch V8, redline Tiger Pole Euro tires, a slightly upgraded suspension, upgraded brakes, a manual 3-speed transmission, etc., etc. And the formula was magic. They called it GTO, mimicking the Ferrari GTO. And there was actually a very famous race in Car Driver magazine where they pitted the Italian Ferrari against the American Pontiac. But what nobody told until after the fact was the Pontiac was actually a ringer. They had taken the car off the assembly line and done a lot of things to it to make it super, super special. And it actually beat the Ferrari in the straight line, which is amazing. However, that's not the story. This was the king of the muscle car, 1964 to 1974. This is the 100th anniversary of Pontiac, and of course an important anniversary for GTO, which we have on our field today. Very, very nice example. Thank you very much for bringing it, and congratulations on your award. Very nice.
Folks, next up, pulling onto the review area, our best-in-class winner for the GTO, underwritten by John and Rachel Carwitt. It's L107, a 1969 Pontiac GTO Ram Air 3 hardtop, brought to us today, courtesy Mike and Kim Ogleton.
Take a look at that, because that was really, again, one of the sexiest of all of the muscle cars that were made. This is the second generation GTO. The first car was 1964 to 1967. A gentleman by the name of Bill Porter, who somewhat recently passed, was the designer of this car in 1968. The biggest, most interesting feature, of course, other than the engine under the hood on the GTO, is the front bumper. It was called Endura, E-N-D-U-R-A. And it was a rubberized steel bumper. In fact, Pontiac advertised that by hitting it with a sledgehammer, that it would accept minor parking lot dings and whatnot that was not typical of the front bumpers. It was a huge fight at General Motors, and Bill Porter, who was again the designer of the car, fought to get that bumper put on the front of the car because it raised the price of each GTO by 20 bucks or some crazy number at the time. This is what they refer to as Coke bottle styling, because it looks very much like a Coke bottle from the side. Very popular. This particular style lasted from 1968 to 1972. Was replaced in 73 by what they call a Colonnade body, and in 74 it shared the body of the Chevy Nova, and then the GTO was gone. But a wonderful car, great example. Congratulations and thank you. Wonderful car. Sounds good too. Man, that sounds nice.
And we now go from muscle cars to something completely different. Class M, European Economy. And this class, underwritten by Edward Jones, the Leo E. Premier, CFP, CEPA. And our first champion winner comes from France, a 1983 Citroën 2CV6 sedan, owned by Stephen Weiner.
This is the most luxurious of the 2CVs, and the later production car. 2CV in French was deux chevaux. These are called the deux chevaux. This was the equivalent of the Volkswagen Beetle, the Model T, the Mini, and this was the French equivalent of that car. And typical French car, my apologies to the owner, it is one quirky and wild car. They advertised this car in its early days when it first came out, showing it you could take eggs to market in the car without breaking the carton of eggs that you were transporting to the market. These cars have extremely supple suspensions to the point of being rather unsafe, to be honest. That's not terrible to say, but true. They're very, very flexible in the interest of giving a very compliant and very comfortable ride. They are ubiquitous. There were millions and millions of them made and sold in France. But this is, in essence, what was the people's car in France. And I'm very glad to have, we actually had two of them on the field today. Very cool car. Thank you so much for bringing it. Well-deserved win. Thank you.
Woo. can't see one without thinking of Roger Moore tumbling through the olive groves in the James Bond movie For Your Eyes Only.
We brought you here for a reason.
Our second champion prize winner comes from Sweden. A 1973 Volvo 1800 ES owned by George and Diane Mazarin.
This is you heard Matt say an 1800 ES. They made this car for 2 years, 72 and 73, despite the fact that the 1800 had been introduced quite a bit earlier. This was Volvo's sports car. It was under the theory that it was a lot of off-the-shelf parts from other Volvo cars, but it had Girling four-wheel disc brakes, which was quite unusual at the time. And then in 70 or 71, thereabouts, the car became fuel injected. And they offered this as a wagon, or we now call it a shooting brake, which is a very vogue thing, a very vogue terminology to use. Essentially a two-door sport wagon. What is most interesting about this is the unusual piece of glass that involves the liftgate to the rear of the car. These are very, very collectible, and it's fair to say this is probably the most collectible of the Swedish sports cars between Saabs and Volvos. Very, very cool car, and excellent color. Love the orange color too. Congratulations on your award. I should have pointed out too, the original of these were built in England by Jensen under contract to Volvo, and the quality control was so bad that Volvo retracted its contract and ended up building it in-house. If you ever heard the name Jensen, Neely or Jensen, that's who built this car.
Speaking of England, our best-in-class winner for European economy, number M113, a 1964 Austin Cooper S, brought to us today by Andrew Kruger.
Andrew's car, I walked past it, and I will tell you this, it's one of the most nicely restored cars on our field. It was expertly done. These were designed by Sir Alex Izaganis. He designed a box on wheels. So basically, you have a box, and his idea was, how do I make the most efficient automobile possible? You can get 4 people in that car surprisingly comfortably, which is what is amazing about a Mini. If you compare this to a Mini today, made by BMW, I would argue that today's car does not have a lot more room in it, but the car is dramatically bigger than is this particular car. These cars were raced. They won the Monte Carlo Rally more than 1 year, I believe 3 years if I'm not mistaken. In Europe, just an amazing automobile. This is equivalent to the Model T in America. This was England or Great Britain's version of the Model T, France's version of the Deux, etc., VW Beetle in Germany. This was the people's car in the UK. Very, very nicely done car. Congratulations, well deserved.
And we now move on to Class D, the coach-built classics, underwritten by Donald L. Jones and Diana E. Davis Jones. And our first champion prize winner is a 1937 Packard 1502 Super 8 Town Car with a Brewster body, brought to us this afternoon by Dennis Wright.
Interesting to see a Packard with a Brewster body. Packards were typically not bodied by Brewster. When you heard the name Brewster, Brewster was a wholly owned subsidiary of Rolls-Royce in New York City. So most Brewster bodies went on Rolls-Royces at the particular time. So to see a formal body on this car is quite unusual, especially at that time period. Basically, as the 30s kind of dissipated, so did the desire of coach-built bodies. Packard had introduced what was called a 110 and a 120, which was a low-priced 6-cylinder car and a medium-priced 8-cylinder car. And by the time this car rolled around in 1937, 90% of all Packards were in Packard's lower series cars, not the big series cars like you see here. So by the time 1940 rolled around, give or take, the demand for coach-built body Packards had pretty much dissipated. This is a beautiful, beautiful automobile and very, very nicely done. And especially interesting to see a Brewster body. Very nice, congratulations. Packard was very simply, ask the man who owns one. That was their slogan. We would consider that rather sexist today, but at the time, it was ask the man who owns one, because they did their own best advertising because the car was just so well done. And outsold Cadillac, which was its nearest competitor.
Our second champion prize winner in the Coach Built Classics class, 1924 Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost LM Newmarket, again with a Brewster body, and owned by John and Rose Gibson.
And Newmarket describes the body that Rolls-Royce, the name that Brewster gave to the body that was put on the car. It is what they call a close coupled body, meaning the body is rather compact relative to the size of the chassis, which enabled the car to have the trunk that you see here. Rolls-Royce had in the United States a company in Springfield, Massachusetts, there where they actually built their own cars there. So Ghosts and Phantom Ones were actually built in Massachusetts as well as in the UK. This car, however, has a US built body by Brewster. It was originally delivered with a Barker limousine body, but in the early days of these cars, unlike today, if you were a wealthy person, you spent a lot of money for the chassis of this car. You sent it back to the coach builder to be rebodied with the body of your choice. This is a Newmarket sedan, which means it is a four-door convertible. The entire roof of the car collapses, as does the pillar that you see there near both of the driver and the passenger in the car, which gave it an open car look. Very handsome car, very, very quiet automobile, extremely good performers, despite the fact that this chassis was built between roughly 1908 and 1926. It was a very long run. Excellent, excellent car, very pretty automobile. Congratulations.
And our Best in Class award for the Coach Built Classics, underwritten by Kent Momberger. Our winner, a 1929 Lincoln Model L all-weather, non-collapsible cabriolet with a Rolston body, owned by Mike Anderson.
I'm not sure where to start on that mouthful that you just gave me right there. Okay, this is an all-weather, non-collapsible cabriolet. That means the roof on this car is fixed. It looks like it should be a convertible with the big Landau irons that you see, like the top should fold. It doesn't, that's fake. The top, however, over the driver was open for the chauffeur. And you would say, well, why did you do that? Well, that was from the carriage making days, because carriages were open in the driver's compartment. The rest of the body of the car, of the carriage, was closed. This is a big Lincoln, which is something we don't often see. Lincolns were developed originally by Henry Leland, who was also the founder of Cadillac. He later went on to found Lincoln. The company was in dire financial states. Ford Motor Company bought it, took it over, and Henry Ford assigned his son, Edsel, to this car as its designer. Edsel he was an excellent taste. He was a man of good taste, and he transformed Lincoln into this very wonderfully engineered, fuddy-duddy looking car into very, very handsome automobiles bodied by coach builders, in the case of this car, by Rolston of New York City. It is, if you look at it very carefully, it's navy blue and black, very subtle two-tone. Very, very handsome Lincoln. Nice, nice car. Congratulations, folks. Well deserved.
Washington Avenue gate here, so if you're standing in that vicinity, be on the lookout. Our first champion prize winner is E44, a 1931 Duesenberg Model J Beverly Berling with a Murphy body, owned by the Gilmore Car Museum, not too far from us, up in Hickory Corners, Michigan.
Just look at that. You heard the saying, it's a doozy. That's where it came from. It was referring to the Duesenberg Automobile Company. Again, I said earlier, this was the best car E.L. Cord said could be built for the money. Under the hood was a big, straight A, dual overhead cams, 4 valves per cylinder, a frame like a truck underneath these things. I mean, they're amazing. These are 6,500 to 7,500 pound cars, depending upon what body is on the car. There were roughly 485 chassis made, all of which had coach-built bodies put on them. Matt said in the case of this car, this is a body, once again, by the Walter Murphy Company. It is a fixed roof car. The roof does not come down on this car. But just, I mean, look at that. Think about the cost and how much money you had to have to do this. These were typically owned by captains of industry, Hollywood elite, and the business elite clientele in America and the world abroad. Fabulous car. Thank you so much for bringing it. It's just lovely.
And a special thanks to our friends at Haggerty who have underwritten the Introducing class. Our best of class winner is a 1932 Duesenberg Model J dual cowl Phaeton with a body by LaVine, brought to us by William and Sonia Miller.
And look at that. And if you're, I'm sure a reaction people often have is, did they really paint cars those colors? Yes is the answer. This is very typical, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is the original colors of this particular car. You heard Matt say it is a dual cowl Phaeton. Okay, what that means is there is a second windshield on the car, but not only is there a second windshield, there is a second dashboard of sorts. So oftentimes there was a speedometer there was a clock there for the rear seat passengers, so that they, if the car was perhaps being chauffeur driven, they would know the speed of the car, what the time was, etc. And the windshield, of course, was to put there to keep the buffeting of the car, the air. It is called a Phaeton because you see the little dots along the edge of the top of the door sills. Those are snaps, so you could snap in side curtains on the car. This car did not have roll-up windows. So it was a dual cowl, 2 dashes, 2 windshields, Phaeton, open body style. It is a sweep panel Phaeton, which is the design that you see coming on around the front fenders to the doors. That was I guess you could say, a styling element on the car, but they took advantage of it with the paint. This has a body by Walker LeGrand, which was the president. Walker was the president of the Duesenberg Automobile Company, and Duesenberg had their own body factory in Connersville, Indiana, but they didn't want it to say the body was by Duesenberg, so it was by LeGrand. It was given that name. It was a manufactured name, but this is a lovely, lovely automobile, just spectacular. You're killing me, really? Their grandparents bought the car in 1953. How cool is that? And it's still with your family. That deserves a round of applause. Beautiful car. Congratulations on your best in class.
And our best in class prize in the Introducing class, underwritten by Significant Cars. And I think we're going to jump ahead about 20 years in time to the 1950s with Class J Fabulous Fins, specifically Fabulous Fins 1. And this class underwritten by Chris and Carmi Murphy. And our first champion prize winner is a 1954 Buick Skylark, brought to us this afternoon by Nate and Kristen Ullery.
And this is the second year of the Buick Skylark. It was originally introduced in 1953 as one of the GM Motorama cars, along with the Olds, just blanking on the name. Isn't that terrible?
Yes,
Help
sir.
me, all the car people.
Yes,
The Buick Skylark, the Cadillac Eldorado, and the Oldsmobile
Yes, sir.
Fiesta. I couldn't come up with the name. Thank you. Were the three Motorama cars that were introduced in '53. The Eldorado, of course, continued. The Buick lasted for 2 years, '53 and '54. It was unusual compared to other Buicks because it did not have portholes on the front fenders. This was also the first Buick with fins in '54, which are the chrome fins which were kind of added onto the body. Harley Earl gets most of the credit for the styling of this car. It had these big open fenders which were painted contrasting color. This was a V8, the second year from Buick's V8, which was introduced in 1953 for the 50th year of Buick. Prior to that, all Buicks had been inline 8-cylinder engines. This was the first V8. These were built limited production, 800 and some odd cars. I don't recall what the number is. How many cars? 836. I couldn't remember exactly what it was. Very, very interesting, rare, unusual car. Grateful that we got it to see it today. Thank you so much and congratulations.
And continuing in fabulous fins, our second champion prize winner is a 1954 Hudson Hornet Hollywood, owned by Larry and Sue Kennedy, making their way up to the reviewing area right now.
Okay, here we go with 50s cars and how they were described. This is a Hudson Hornet Hollywood with, thank you, I couldn't think what I wanted to say again. It's the second time now already. With twin H power, so a lot to unpack here. Hudson was named after a department store. It was the only car that was ever named after a department store. First came out roughly 1916, about thereabouts. Hudson was kind of in tough shape by the time this car was built. It was introduced after World War II. They developed a design called step down. And you actually got in the car and stepped down. The body sat below the frame rails in the car. What it did was it gave the car a lower center of gravity, and the car was taken racing in NASCAR. It beat everybody. And it had this twin H power on the 6-cylinder engine, which was as powerful as most other manufacturers of V8s. Hudson tried to disguise the fact over time that this car was the design from 1948, and they made it look more 50s sleek, but it was a lower kind of a look than the other cars. Hollywood referred to the fact that this was a two-door hardtop, which was all the vogue. So you have the pillar at the windshield and the pillar at the back window, an A pillar and a C pillar. It was missing the B pillar on the car, which gave it that open look, almost like a convertible had with the top up. And that was why it's called a Hudson Hornet Hollywood Coupe Galloway. Very cool car, great color combination. These folks said this car was always a red car. Lipstick was a spring special color. Couldn't have called it a better name, could it? Very cool car. Congratulations on your award.
And ladies and gentlemen, appropriately enough, our best of class winner in Fabulous Fins 1, a 1957 Studebaker Golden Hawk, brought to us today by Craig Piper.
The Golden Hawk was a limited member, I should say, of the Hawk family. This car came out in 1953 as the Commander Starliner Coupe that was designed by Bob Burke at the Raymond Loewy Studios. As time progressed over the 50s, Studebaker wanted to update the car and give it more of a look of what you see here. This was given fins. If you look very carefully at the fins that are on the back of the car, this fin that you see, I'm directing the wrong side of the car. This fin that you see, that was actually bolted onto the side of the car to give it that look, as was that interesting stamping in the trunk that they did on the back of the car. Studebaker also was in bed with Mercedes-Benz at this time. They were the U.S. distributor for Mercedes-Benz, and a forward-thrusting Mercedes-Benz grille was put on the car to give it a more modernized look. Under the hood was Studebaker's 289 cubic inch engine. This was a very well-performing car. Studebaker called it a 4-seat sports car, which was really a marketing thing, but very cool nonetheless. Very handsome automobile, and beautifully done, I'm going to know. Also, very nice car. Congratulations on your award.
All right, folks, Fabulous Fins, Class C Weiss, they did it twice. Class K, Fabulous Fins 2. And our first champion winner is a 1959 Oldsmobile 98 convertible brought to us by Al and Carol Schulten.
And Carol is a car chick. I learned that earlier today when I was talking to her. She's driving the car, obviously. This was Oldsmobile's biggest car. You had an 88, a Super 88, and a 98. This was the big car on the longest wheelbase. This actually shared its wheelbase with the big Buick and also the small Cadillac. So this was the big car in GM's lineup. The 98 would continue really into the 90s, I believe, in terms of a nameplate that was used on the car. Carol also said she drives the car everywhere and enjoys it. It's a really cool car. Thank you so much for bringing it. Congratulations on your award.
Congratulations again to Al and Carol Schulten. And our best in class winner, Fabulous Fins 2, is a 1958 Plymouth Fury brought to us this afternoon by Robert and Virginia Walby.
Plymouth introduced the Fury in 1955 as a limited production top-of-the-line car in the Belvedere, Savoy, etc. lineup of cars. This was the big car, the big guns, if you want to call it. This particular car, and I should also point out, the car also had gold anodized trim on it, which was unique to the Fury as the top of the line of the car. Most important about these cars, these were designed by Virgil Exner. Virgil Exner actually got his start at Studebaker and General Motors. He left there, was hired by Chrysler in the early 50s. Chrysler was a bit of an also-ran, I guess you could say, in the 50s. Very stodgy styling, excellent engineering, but the cars just didn't have pizzazz. They hired Exner away, and Exner was a kid in a candy store. Every trick, gimmick thing he could think of, he used in the design of the automobile. What is particularly unusual about this car, you can hear the car, it sounds a bit like it's camped up. Well, it is. It's a factory hot rod. Underneath the hood of this car is a 350 cubic inch Chrysler V8, which is an odd V8 you don't typically see. On top of it are two 4-barrel carburetors, a special cam, some other features about the car. That was really the beginnings of using this motor in NASCAR. They had to build a certain number of them in order to race them. The other thing, of course, you can see are the fins on the back of the car, which Chrysler attempted to sell to the public as stabilizer fins, which was 100% complete and total BS. It had nothing to do with the stability of the automobile. It was all about the styling. But that gold anodized trim was fury to the max. This car is very unusual, very rare, and a car that you don't often get to see with this motor under the hood. Very cool. Congratulations on your award.
And we move on next to Class A, motor cars of the Lincoln Highway, named for the first named marked Transcontinental Highway, which ran just a few blocks away from where we're all gathered right now. This class underwritten by Niall and Emily Bowling, and our first champion winner, a 1916 Packard Twin 6 Runabout, brought to us today by Russ Rodriguez and Mary Ellen Nealman.
You heard Matt call this a twin six. The reason it is called a twin six, it is a V12 engine under the hood. Packard did not want to sound so pretentious as to call their car a V12, so it was referred to as a twin six. They were very early on in the 12-cylinder game. Obviously, the whole idea behind the 12-cylinder was the supremacy in terms of the size and the power of the motor against its competitors, Cadillac, etc. This was back in the early days where they used to take cars on long-distance drives across the United States to prove them. Packard was, of course, a proven winner in terms of its reliability. They originally began by being made in Ohio. Packard moved to Detroit to East Grand Avenue, where really some of the most spectacular cars ever made in the United States were made there until 1958, when Packard merged with Studebaker, and it was bye-bye after that. So, fabulous early cars, something we don't often get to see, but really, and that color, by the way, is very simply referred to as Packard Blue. That is the name of the car. Really, really cool. Beautiful car.
And the second of our two champion prize winners in the Motor Cars of the Lincoln Highway class, a 1921 Marmon 34B Speedster, brought to us by Jack Frank.
The Marmon was built in Indianapolis, Indiana. The man behind the Marmon was Howard Marmon, and he was an engineer obsessed with lightweight. The other thing that is kind of interesting, you can almost always tell that it's a Marmon because of the diamond-shaped windows in the top. That was a Marmon styling signature. Again, obsessed with lightweight. All of the cars were proven on racetracks. They are amazing, amazing automobiles in terms of their speed, their flexibility, drivability. They were light years ahead of other manufacturers, and I point that out also because you'll look, the car is a bit more low slung, it sits a little bit lower, which is one of his objectives, to get the center of the gravity of the car lower to the ground for racing purposes. Much like the Duesenberg brothers, Howard Marmon built cars to go racing. His production cars were an afterthought, but they were brilliantly engineered and beautifully done automobiles. Excellent example of an early Marmon. Great car. Love your car. Thank you very much.
And our best of class winner, Motor Cars of the Lincoln Highway, underwritten by Mark Smucker, a 1913 full series
And I asked you earlier today if there were things on the field that you saw today you may have never seen before. I suspect this Cole might have been one of them. This was an early, of course, important car. Cole was a fairly sophisticated automobile. In fact, while this Cole is a four-cylinder, in 1915, Cole introduced a V8 engine, which was pretty unusual circa 1915. This particular car was actually owned by one of the members of the Cole family. It was in their lineage for quite some time. Cole was built, I should point out, but I failed to do so, in Indianapolis, Indiana. So this is another Indiana-built car. A wonderful car, another great car that we don't get to see often. And this is kind of on that cusp. This is a 1913. This would be a car that we call from the brass era, which is typically cars that are built before January 1916, when the exterior trim on the car was brass. Some of the manufacturers had already kind of moved to it. Colt, for example, the trim that you see on the front of this car on the radiator, as an example, is nickel, which is what that was used before it was chrome. Chrome plating became popular in the 20s. But very cool cars. So this is kind of on the cusp or transition area between brass and nickel era cars. Very, very cool car.
the first of our two champion prize winners, a 1929 Ford L29 Town Car with a Dieterson Ferrer body, brought to us by the Classic Car Club of America Museum.
I'm going to help you out there.
Please do.
The body on this car is by Dieter and Frere, which is Belgian. Dieteren is D''I, Dieteren, but the Frere means brothers in French, so it was the Dieter and Brothers, essentially. This is an L29 Cord. This is the first front-wheel drive car sold in America in 1929. E.L. Cord beat Ruxton, who was the other front-wheel drive car announced in 1929 to market. If you look at this car, you're going to look at how low it sits. And the reason is because the fact that in 1929, you sat above the drive line on the car. This car does not have the drive shaft to the rear because it's front-wheel drive. And the engine is flipped so that the transmission is out the front of the car, which is what you see peeking out the front and why the hood of the car is so long. The original bodies of this car were designed by Alexis de Sosnovsky, who was a Russian that was hired by Ford to design this car. It came in 4 basic body styles, although this car had the Dieter and Frere body put on it by its owner, who had that body on another automobile and had it swapped and put on this particular car. Very unusual, very unique car, and I want to point out, if anybody's looking at that and saying, what's going on with the glass there? The paint isn't perfect. This is an original car. This is an unrestored car from 1929, almost 100 years old, untouched, as it was built from 1929, which is a pretty cool thing in and of itself. Wonderful car. And you know the rule, don't touch that car. When it's only original once, as they say. Very cool car. Well deserved.
And our second champion winner in the Auburns and Cords class, a 1935 Auburn 851 SC Cabriolet, owned by Sean Miller.
That said, it's an 851, that is an 8-cylinder. This is a supercharged car, so this has a Cummins Switzer supercharger on the straight 8 engine. Auburn was, to be very safe to say, a pretty pedestrian, pretty nerdy car in 1900 when it came out. E.L. Cord bought the company, took the car out of basic, all but bankruptcy, and made the car that you see here today. He hired, it's my third of the day. Al Leamy did the original designs of the Auburns in the late 20s, and this was, help me, I'm blanking. Gordon Burek, geez, I'm having a rough day today. Gordon Burek, who was given $50,000 to redesign the Auburn that you see here today and give it this body. Very handsome automobile. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Those pipes are significant that it is a supercharged car that you see coming out of the side of the hood.
And our best of class winner in Auburns and Cords, underwritten by Baird, a 1937 Cord 812 Cabriolet, owned by Wynn and Carol Lading.
This is the last year for the Accord. You saw the L29 earlier. That was 1929, 30, and 31. Cord came back with the car in 1936 as the 810, which is the car that you see here. In 1937, it became the 812. This was a body also designed by Gordon Burek. It was supposed to be a baby Duesenberg. It was supposed to be the next Duesenberg, but Cord couldn't resist the temptation of naming it after himself. This too is a front-wheel drive automobile. There were roughly 30 firsts on this automobile. Production was not so hot. Things didn't go so well for the 2 years. A lot of bugs, lots of delays, things like that. It has an electromechanical transmission, number one. It has a very early form of unitized body. It has, of course, front-wheel drive, concealed headlights. It has a clamshell hood, front-opening hood on the car. A lot of very unusual things at the time. There were a lot of production glitches to the car. Of course, the Auburn and Duesenberg were in tough shape as well. And after 1937, the car went away. But not before giving us what was probably one of the most stylish and iconic American cars that was ever built. Very, very lovely car. Congratulations on your work. Well deserved. This, by the way, too, I should point out, the Auburn that you saw, you're okay, was a straight 8. This is a V8 engine with again, a supercharger on it, as you can see by the pipes. The engines were made by Ford's company in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, not far from where I live, called Lycoming. So that's a Lycoming V8.
Now we move on to the 1930s and Class C, New Deal motoring, a depression class, but by no means a depressing class. Underwritten by Anita and Thomas Feldman, and our champion prize winner, a 1937 Packard 115C business coupe, owned by George Zilke.
And you look at the wheel covers on this car and it says Packard 6. Packard introduced the 120 in the mid-30s of the mid-1930s following the Depression, realizing that the market for big coach-built heavy Packards was going away. This car was to compete with Oldsmobiles, Mercurys, things like that, and it did so successfully. Not, however, along with its brother, this is the 110 or 115 six-cylinder, there was a 120 which was an 8. They represented over 90% of Packard production. And some people will say, well, it was the end of Packard as we know it, and other people tell you that it saved the company and kept it around for many more years. I'm inclined to be of the belief of the latter. You had all the wonderful engineering of Packard in a much more compact and less expensive automobile, which made Packard available to the masses. After the Depression, here just an interesting little fact, more people owned stock in Packard than in any company in America save for General Motors. So that's what people thought of Packard in the late 20s, early 30s. Very cool car. Listen, even in six-cylinder format. Very cool car. Congratulations.
All right, our best of class winner in New Deal motoring, a 1936 Chrysler Imperial Coupe, brought to us this afternoon by Rex Barrett.
And dare I say, this is probably one of my favorite cars on the field today. This was a disaster for Chrysler, yet today we recognize this as perhaps one of the most important cars that was built in the 1930s. If you compare this to a 1931 to 1933 Chrysler Imperial parked next to this, you would not know they are anywhere close to being just 1 year apart and from the same company. This was developed by the Three Musketeers, 3 engineers at Chrysler, who kind of did a lot in secret, and they developed this automobile. Look at it, first of all, it's aerodynamic. It was designed in a wind tunnel to make the car as sleek as possible. The back seat actually, instead of sitting on the axle, which most cars did, the back seat sat ahead of the rear axle, which made the car a better riding car for the rear seat passengers, also giving them more room. It also pushed the car forward, what we later called cab forward architecture, and pushed the engine out over the front axle, which was unusual at the time. It had what was called a beam and truss design, which was a predecessor to today's unibody cars. This was Chrysler's top of the line, the Imperial. As such, they were built in very, very limited numbers. Big straight 8 under the hood, very powerful car, and once again, almost virtual silence. These are stunningly, stunningly beautiful cars, but people at the time didn't like them. It was too much too soon. The public thought it was a radical automobile. Today, recognize what an important car that it is. Lovely, lovely car. I'm jealous. I wish it was mine.
Those Three Musketeers, Zederberg and Skelton, subject of one of our sessions at yesterday's Automotive
Thank you
History
for
Live
pointing that out,
presentation.
yes.
We now move on to Class F as we celebrate the centennial of Pontiac cars. Formed in 1926, class underwritten by Anita and Thomas Feldman, and our first champion winner is a 1967 Pontiac Firebird 400 convertible, brought to us by Ray Hammond.
This is a pony car, which is a subset of the muscle car. The pony car was really started by the Ford Mustang. This was Chevrolet's answer to the Ford Mustang, which came out mid-year 1964 as the 65 model. The Chevrolet Camaro came out in 1967. The Firebird was about 4 months later than the Camaro. It came out actually after that. And the reason it was late is because John DeLorean didn't want it. He wanted to build a car called the Banshee, which was a two-seat Pontiac. And the GM brass was afraid that the Banshee would steal sales from the Corvette because it was powerful and a very compact design car. Consequently, the brass at GM said, no, we're not giving you the car. He relented and he was given the Firebird, so it was kind of rushed to production. So you had the Firebird, the Camaro, the Javelin at AMC, the Barracuda and the Challenger at Chrysler, and the Mustang and Cougar at Ford. They were all considered the pony cars. This is a Firebird 400 because there's a 400 cubic inch engine under the hood. I heard someone ask earlier today, what is that thing sticking out of the hood? Which made me laugh. That is the tachometer. So the idea was that the driver could look out over the hood of the car and see the tach and not have to take their eyes off the road when they were shifting the car. This car is especially unusual because it's my understanding it is loaded with virtually every factory option that was available at that particular time. It is way cool. Very, very neat car. Congratulations, and thank you for bringing it. Well deserved. Well deserved. Sounds nice too.
You might call that tack on the hood a revolutionary idea. Sorry.
I need a rim shot.
Our second champion prize winner, the Pontiac Centennial class, a 1958 Pontiac Parisian hardtop, brought to us by Tim Aarons.
It's actually called a Parisienne.
Thank you.
This is a Canadian Pontiac, and it's very interesting because you're going to see it. The car that's following is the American version of this car. This was equivalent to the Bonneville in the United States, which was introduced in 1957 as a limited production fuel-injected convertible. It was so successful for Pontiac as their image, they brought the car back for 1958 in a coupe and sedan and a convertible form. They had the comparable Parisienne in Canada. What is unusual though, if you look at this car and you see them side by side, the American car is longer. It's built on the same X-frame chassis, but it's a longer wheelbase car. This is the same wheelbase as a 1958 Chevy Impala, Bel Air, etc. It's a shorter car, and as such, it has a 348 Chevy engine in it instead of a 370 Pontiac engine in it. Don't ask me why General Motors does the things they do. That was what they did at the time. Absolutely love the colors of this car. It is spectacular. And if you folks have not seen it inside, you need to take a look. It is so 50s. It's just awesome. Beautiful car. Congratulations. Very well deserved award.
And our best of class winner in the Pontiac Centennial class, also 1958. In this case, a 1958 Pontiac Bonneville Coupe, brought to us today by Dr. Craig and Deborah Henry.
I doubt you're going to be able to see the difference, but this car looks a little tick longer than did the Parisienne that you saw earlier, because this is the American chassis car. As such, Instead of a Chevy 348 V8, it has a 370 cubic inch Pontiac V8 engine in it with optional fuel injection, which was very, very rare at the time. This car also, in addition to this wonderful color combination, is loaded, and I mean loaded with unusual options. Bucket seats, leather upholstery, power windows. It has a visor that comes down over the window. It has a transistor radio. Can you pop that out and show it to people? That pops out, no, to the people over there, other side, other side. That pops out, and you can carry the radio to the beach. I mean, just all these really wild ideas. On top of that, the color combination is killer. And it has the silver luster threads in it, and the carpeting, which are metallic threads. Look at this styling on the side of the car. That is a rocket taking off the jet trail from the rocket. That was where Harley Earl's head was when he was doing the styling and the design of this car. Wonderful, wonderful automobile. Congratulations, and well-deserved win. Thank you. Very nice car.
You see here the formal name for that paint, Sunshine Coral, which seems just about perfect.
Perfect name.
Folks, just a few moments here before we move on to our next class, Class G Vintage Motorcycles. They will be coming out of the Washington Avenue gate there as we get them started.
Does make us all realize, or should realize, you don't get in these things and push a button and they go like we're used to. There is a procedure that is virtually unique to every motorcycle car that you see on the field here to get to go. We are very spoiled by that.
Here we are, Class G Vintage Motorcycles, underwritten by Anita and Thomas Feldman, and our first champion prize winner is the 1929 Harley-Davidson JDH, owned by Timothy Wiggins.
I learned earlier today one of the more interesting things about this motorcycle is the fact that it has dual headlights. This was a one-year-only thing because they learned that a lot of people ended up having accidents at nighttime. During the day, no problem, but at nighttime, people thought they were looking at a car when it was coming towards them, and it was in fact a motorcycle. So Harley-Davidson wisely realized not a great idea from an engineering or design standpoint and changed that on subsequent models. It's a beautiful restoration. I also want to point out, unlike bikes where you're shifting on the handle, he's shifting with a gear shift lever that is actually there. It's just very, very cool. Very neat bike. Congratulations.
Of our two champion prize winners in our vintage motorcycle class, a 1968 Triumph Bonneville T120, brought to us this afternoon by Dan Smith.
And Dan's bike, if he could bring it over here, you may walk it over. You can walk the bike over. Okay, it's not the right one? All right, let's do the next one then.
Well, gentlemen, our best in class winner from the vintage motorcycle class, the award underwritten by John and Judy Farrell, a 1972 Yankee 500Z, owned by Bob Piper. Here comes Bob.
And this is a Yankee motorcycle, was the brainchild of John Taylor, an importer of Spanish motorcycles. This is number 92 of 754 built at Yankee Schenectady, New York plant. Yankee Motorcycles featured a 500cc two-stroke engine producing 50 horsepower. I learned something today. I've never seen a Yankee motorcycle. Very cool. Congratulations on your award. That is our best-in-class motorcycle. Thank you very much.
We move on now to Class H. Hail to the Chief. The Studebaker presidents are here. This class underwritten by the Nickel family. And the first of our champion prize winners, a 1930 Studebaker President 7-passenger sedan brought to us today by the NB Center for American Automotive Heritage.
This car is being driven by my friend Jonathan Klinger from the NB Center, which is in Allentown, Pennsylvania, not very far from where I live. Mr. Bulgari has a propensity to take what he feels are rather very ordinary cars and restore them to an incredibly high standard, as you can see with this car. It is stunning bodywork. This is a Studebaker factory body. A President was, of course, a top-of-the-line car. You had a Dictator, Commander, and a President at the top of the line of the automobile. This particular car was finished just weeks ago, so it is its first Concours appearance today. Jonathan was kind enough to bring it here for us today. I love the name of the color. It's called Absinthe Green. Great color. And listen to that. Very, very nice sounding Studebaker engine. Let's give that one for the home team, right? Exactly. Congratulations on your award. Well done.
And the second of our two champion prize winners in the Studebaker President's class, a 1940 Studebaker President Coupe brought to us today by Greg Mahoney.
A business coupe, goes without saying, is unusual. So here you have the top of the line Studebaker, but really the lowest line model of the Studebakers of that top of the line car. The business coupe was a salesman's special. The trunk opened up, there was no back seat in the car, and the idea was that a salesman could use this car to carry their samples when they were going to call on a customer to sell something to them. As such, it was referred to as a business coupe, no back seat. What it did give you, though, was this incredibly stylish roofline. This is a Loewy design body, Raymond Loewy, although later years of the Loewy design body. Very, very sleek aerodynamic body, which was kind of more an effect of someone's guessing than a wind tunnel, but nonetheless gave you this really good looking automobile. Very cool car. I would wager to bet there are not many President business coupes. There you go. 8 known to exist, give or take. Great car. Awesome car. Thank you for bringing it.
Right, our best in class of the Studebaker Presidents. This award underwritten by Steve Stevens. Our winner, a 1955 Studebaker President Speedster, owned by Harold Indiana Manley.
This was kind of before the days of one price, one model idea, I guess you could say. This was the 53 Studebaker Commander Starliner that was designed by Bob Burke at the Loewy Studios. 2 years later, Studebaker decided we need to get on the bandwagon here with the chrome and fins and all that kind of crazy stuff. That was the craze, and they came out with this wildly stylized version of the Commander Starliner with a lot of extra chrome trim. It was one model, one way. Everything was included essentially in the base price of the car. It was not a particularly wise move from a business standpoint by Studebaker, but these are extremely collectible today. The color of this car is called Pimlico Gray, which pairs beautiful with the ivory paint on this car. Wire wheels were part of the program here. The diamond stitched upholstery that you see in the car. Very, very handsome automobile, but it was a 1 year only model. 56 became the Hawk after this car. Very, very cool car. Thank you for bringing it. Congratulations on your award.
And with that, folks, we move from our class awards into our premier awards. And our first, the J.M. Studebaker Award for Most Outstanding Studebaker. This prize, underwritten by Jane and Gary Ash, and our winner, a 1961 Studebaker Hawk, brought to us this afternoon by Pete Wendt.
I had the pleasure of judging Pete's car, and I want to tell you, this is one spectacular car. It is stunningly restored. This car is painted a color called flamingo, and I'll tell you, you look at that, it looks like a flamingo. Very unusual bucket seat interior with some very odd fabric on the car. This gentleman worked many, many years to restore this car. The Hawk was kind of a late entry in 1961. Studebaker was building all the Larks it could build in 61, but the dealers came clamoring and said, we need Hawks, we need a sporty car in our lineup, so this came late in the model year of the car. The other thing that this car has, it is an air-conditioned car. You gotta see the air-conditioned unit in the inside of this car. It looks like a 1950s radio. It is the absolute coolest air conditioner I think I have ever seen. And hopefully it's cool today because of the temperature here. But really wonderful car. Congratulations, well deserved. Our best Studebaker on the field today. Well deserved. Beautiful car.
We move on next to the Auburn Automobile Company Award for the most outstanding Auburn or Cord. Of course, Auburn produced some of the industry's most groundbreaking automobiles, and today, Auburn, Indiana is home to the magnificent Auburn Cord Duesenberg Automobile Museum. And our winner, a 1936 Auburn 852 Speedster owned by Tom and Ann Beal.
Look at this car. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this. This is why Auburns are so desired today, especially in speedster guys. You heard me say earlier, Gordon Burek was the guy that was behind the design of this car. He was given $50,000 by E.L. Cord to redesign the Al Leamy design car. Al Leamy, by the way, when he came to Auburn Cord Duesenberg, was just 28 years of age when he designed the first speedster. Cord wanted the car to be more sleek, which is what you see here. They took essentially the same car, extended the wheelbase by an inch, put an inline 8-cylinder engine with the supercharger on it. Each car was tested at Indianapolis, had a plaque on the dash that Ab Jenkins or another driver had driven the car and certified that it was driven at 100 miles an hour. These are just beautiful, beautiful automobiles. And this is probably one of the more magnificent examples that I've seen. Wonderful car. Congratulations. Well deserved. Best in class. Best Auburn.
Our next premier award, the World's Finest Motor Car Award, presented to the most outstanding Duesenberg. The award underwritten by John and Judy Farrell. And that is how Duesenberg builds itself, the world's finest automobile, and not entirely without justification either. Our winner, a 1929 Duesenberg Model J Sports Sedan with a body by Wayman, owned by Don Garee.
And Don has excellent taste in automobiles, no matter what it is that he has. Take a very close look at this car. This has a Wayman body that's spelled W-E-Y-M-A-N-N. It is a fabric body, meaning the car is framed in wood, as most cars were at the time, and instead of having steel panels stretched over it, they are fabric panels that are stretched over it and painted to look like metal. The idea behind it was the ash wood with the fabric weighed less than a steel body, which made the car a better performer. All the rest of the Duesenberg attributes, of course, are the same. What being here is significant on this particular car is the body. It's one of a handful that was built in such fashion. Don, wonderful car. Thank you so much for bringing it. Congratulations. Well deserved.
We had asked Don to pause at the reviewing stand. He took that differently with the dog and the pause.
P-A-W-S. I just got that.
There you go.
I was a little slow on the uptake there.
All right. And now our Silver Streak Award, presented to the most outstanding Pontiac, again in this Pontiac's centennial year, and named for the Silver Streak styling theme that debuted in 1938. Our winner, a 1970 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, owned by Keith Knudsen.
Well, on Keith's car, the Silver Streaks are long gone. The Silver Streaks went away in the 1950s, 56 or 7, I forget, 56 I believe was the year they were gone. The guy who was the head of Pontiac at the time, Bunky Knudsen, he hated them and he said they looked like suspenders holding up men's pants. And he said, he was the guy who said, you can sell an old man a young man's car, but you can't sell a young man an old man's car. And he was the guy, along with John DeLorean, that transformed Pontiac. This is a 1970, correct? 71? 70 Trans Am. Second year for the Trans Am. 69 was the first year. This was the new F-body that was shared with the Camaro, which had this wonderful, wonderful styling. Interestingly enough, Pontiac did not really support Trans Am racing. Yes, Jerry Titus drove a Pontiac, I believe. He was the one who drove it in the Trans Am series. But Pontiac chose this name, marketed it on their car, and did it brilliantly. One of the things they had was the reverse hood scoop that you see here, and it was designed to grab air that was coming off the windshield aerodynamically and send cold air to the engine. Just like the portlets that you see on the fenders were designed to get the hot air out from under the hood, get cold air into the engine, hot air out to make this car a better performer. This color is called Lucerne Blue, which is my favorite, absolute hands down color on a Trans Am. Just a wonderful car. I want to comment on one other thing. Everybody who owns these can't help themselves but put chrome trim rings on the wheels of the car. They did not come that way. They came just like you see here, minus the trim ring, and this has the correct Firestone wide over tires on it. I mean, what a wonderful, wonderful piece of history here. Great, great pony car. Congratulations. Well done.
And folks, we also have a John DeLorean Award for the most outstanding GTO, named in honor of DeLorean, the father of the GTO, and for that matter, the modern muscle car of the 1960s forward. He's not available to go through passenger review right now, but we do want to announce the winner. 1967 Pontiac GTO convertible, owned by Ron Whiteford. We're going to move on in our premier awards to the Helen Dryden Award for exemplary interior design. Helen Dryden was a renowned fashion illustrator and New York Broadway costume designer during the Jazz Age. And in the early 1930s, Miss Dryden oversaw Studebaker's interior design efforts. And the winner of the prize, a 1959 Oldsmobile 98 hardtop owned by Charlie Mullen.
And I also had the pleasure of judging this car. Look at that car. I mean, we all go crazy over Exner in the 1950s at Chrysler, but this was really GM at its best. Very garish styling of the car. The 98 shared its chassis, as you heard me say earlier, with the small Cadillac, the Series 61 Cadillac. What is perhaps most unusual, two things about this car. Number one is what they called a flat top, which was Vista styling, which was literally all this glass area. It almost gave you a 360-degree view in the car. What it didn't give you is if you were involved in a rollover type of accident, very much protection. So while it looked good, this was the high heels of automobiles. Very, very cool. This car is loaded with factory options. It has virtually every option on it. I want to point out what you can see through the wraparound windshield in front of the driver is this thing that's sticking up. That's called Autronic Eye, which was a marvel of GM at the time. electronic eye automatically dimmed the high beams when another car was approaching in the opposite direction. It was very cool, and it had this rocket-like look to it. This car wins best interior, most interesting interior. If you look at it, you'll understand. Fabric is woven that it's almost like vinyl. It's like nubby. It's very, very unusual, and it's in really stunning condition inside. Please do take a look. Well deserved. Congratulations on your award. Great car.
Next up in our premier award, the Fred and Augie Duesenberg Award for Engineering Excellence, underwritten by Donald L. Jones and Diana E. Davis Jones. And of course, Duesenberg is known for the racing efforts, known for the Duesenberg automobiles, though notably the prize does not need to go to a Duesenberg. It is for general engineering excellence. And indeed our winner, a 1972 Citroen DS21, brought to us by Hilary Rabb Jr.
And dare I say, at the risk of insulting anybody who's French out there, the French build by far the weirdest cars on the planet. However, there's a reason they do things differently. This is, as you heard Matt say, a Citroen. I'm presuming many of you have never seen this car before. It began life as a DS19 in the mid-1950s. This is a larger engine, thus it's called a DS21. What is unusual about this is virtually everything on this car operates hydraulically. So there's an oil line to make things work on the car. Ergo why it is a French car that makes people a little crazy. So you have to be mechanically inclined. You can see he's raising the suspension, which is done hydraulically on the car. And Citroen advertised that, saying you can kind of get yourself out of a pinch. You could do that in a rut or a situation where the car was stuck. You could change the tire very simply by raising the car. All kinds of crazy things. And they, interesting, also had this wonderful aerodynamic styling in the automobile. I want to say, how many wagons like this do you think are stateside? A handful, if that. If that. Oh, 40 or 50, that's more than I thought, okay? Very cool car, gentlemen. It was a pleasure also sharing the table with you last night. We had a lot of fun, but a neat car. Very cool.
Easily the most uplifting presentation we've had this afternoon.
Oh man, I'll tell you, you're full of them. Jeez.
Next up, folks, the Tom Cotter Digs This Car Award. And this award is presented to the car that catches the fancy or otherwise stimulates the eclectic tastes of automotive author and historian Tom Cotter. And there's no one better to explain our winner and why the prize was given than Mr. Tom Cotter.
And may I say, you're a little weird too. So you picked some unusual cars and unusual things and have an appreciation for the auto. How was that? So tell us why you picked this car.
I picked this Fiat. It's a nice Fiat. Everybody loves a Fiat 500. But if you know my program, Wildfire Hunter, or participated in any of my seminars, you know I'm into stories. I'm a storyteller. Sienna Gilday is the owner of this car. Come out. I'm doing something that I haven't asked permission for, and I do it anyway. Sienna is a 17-year-old, about to be a high school senior. Fell in love with this kind of car because it did what?
I watched the movie Cars that takes
Was it about a Fiat 500? Was there a Fiat 500 Pixar in the movie?
Do you see the car tire over there? Oh, here, I think there's this.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we're all worried about where our hobby's going after we pass on, it's going to be people like Sienna, who at 17-year-old already have a vintage car. Congratulations.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Sienna, and your 1962 Fiat. Congratulations. next up, our President's Choice Award, underwritten by Holly and Jim Harris, and selected by the Studebaker National Museum Board of Trustees President Ron Whiteford. And our winner, a 1927 Duesenberg Model A Roadster, brought to us courtesy the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum.
This car is especially important to me because this car was bodied in my hometown of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. This is a Duesenberg A, which was an extremely important automobile historically. The A was the first car with a production inline 8-cylinder engine. It was also the first car with four-wheel hydraulic brakes. Each A, just like the J that came later, each A was coach built and had a body by an outside manufacturer. The Duesenberg family did not do bodies. This was bodied by the Charles Shuddy Body Company in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, who, as best as I can tell, did about 6 Duesenberg A bodies. This was Augie Duesenberg's personal car. And the rumor is that it was given to him by Babe Stapp, who was a friend of his, a fellow driver for Duesenberg. And it's built on the long wheelbase chassis, which gives this car this incredibly sleek look. There are actually, believe it or not, 2 Duesenberg A's built by Shuddy that are still with us here today. Fantastic automobile. I never get tired of seeing it, and it makes me feel good. My home team, just like Studebaker here in South Bend, this is my hometown of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Very cool car.
Folks, next up we have our Art on 4 Wheels Award, underwritten by John and Judy Farrell. This prize is given to the automobile that best presents itself as a work of art. And I think it'll be hard to argue with our winner, a 1935 Auburn 851 Boattail Speedster, owned by Alan and Nancy Strong.
What a handsome car. You've heard us talk about the Speedster. We've had several of them here today. 851 meant that it was an inline 8-cylinder engine, of course, with the Cummins Switzer supercharger on it. The boat-tail body was not designed to be everybody's taste, and it was not designed to sell like crazy. It was like a Dodge Viper or a Chevy Corvette. It was designed to get people in the showroom to see the car and then sell them another car that was in the showroom, what they called a halo car. It didn't get much better than this. I mean, it was probably about as good as it got in the 1930s, was an Auburn Speedster. What a sexy car. Congratulations on your award, very well deserved. Pretty car.
And coming next, we have our Chairman's Choice Award, underwritten by Gibson and selected by the chairman of the Concours d'Elegance at Copshaholm and executive director at Studebaker National Museum, Mr. Patrick LaVine. And his choice, a 1953 Pontiac Chieftain Deluxe convertible, brought to us this afternoon by Michael Burley.
And Mike's car is an all-original, unrestored car. His dad bought this car, and he told me a story earlier today that he learned something about Santa Claus because he found all his presents when he was a kid hidden in the trunk of this car, which kind of blew the myth as to where the presents at Christmas time came from. A pretty cool story. But this is a Silver Streak Pontiac. So this is a Pontiac that has the streak down the center of the car. The later Pontiacs had them side by side or parallel, which is where this suspender reference came from. The front of this car has this wonderful hood ornament, which lights up at nighttime. That was an option on the car. You see them on many Pontiacs, the Indian head hood ornament in amber. But I really want to impress upon you that this is an unrestored original car, original paint, as it was built in 1953. Wow, I love this car. I know you won't monkey with it. It will stay as it is. I know you won't do anything. It's a perfect car. Thank you so much, Mike. Congratulations.
And we move on on to our Chief Judge's Award, selected by the fellow you met earlier in the ceremony, Mr. Matt Short, Chief Judge here at the Concours d'Elegance at Copshaholm. The car is not able to go through passenger view right now, but that's not a problem because it's right there across the wall, the easternmost car in the lineup there, a 1926 Rickenbacker 8 Super Sport boat-tailed coupe brought to us courtesy of the Singleton Collection. We'll go right on into the next one here. Our Master of Ceremonies Award, underwritten by Donald L. Jones, Diana E. Davis Jones, and no one better to explain this than our Concours d'Elegance at Copshaholm Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Bill Rothermel.
This was my pick for my favorite car on the field for a multitude of reasons. I'll come out here. For a multitude of reasons, I love the styling on a 61 Cadillac. You realize in 1959 was probably the most excessive car on the planet, was the Cadillac of 1959. Tallest fins, most chrome, crazy kind of ideas. In 1961, GM is finally saying, wait a minute, less is more. They made the car smaller in size. They gave it these wonderful lines. The beautiful fins are much smaller. It has something what was unusual to GM cars also at the time, a styling element called skegs, which is the fin in reverse. So the fin that you see coming out along the bottom of the car is called a skeg, S-K-E-G. It came about in the Cadillac Cyclone show car and was transferred to the production automobile. I just think this is the epitome of good taste in an automobile in 1961. Congratulations, I love your car. Well deserved, if I must say so.
1961 Cadillac Coupe de Ville owned by Randy Hoover. Congratulations. Next up, our Copshaholm Award, underwritten by Donald L. Jones and Diana E. Davis Jones. This is presented to the automobile that best embodies the style, grace, and craftsmanship of Copshaholm, the Oliver family's mansion. You can appreciate that craftsmanship right behind us as we look at the mansion here. And our winner, a 1938 Packard 1605 convertible sedan with a body by Dietrich, owned by Ralph and Lynn Boyer.
And the Boyer's car is a Super 8. So this is the big Packard, but not the 12-cylinder engine, the 8-cylinder engine. This was an inline 8-cylinder engine. This is now getting towards the end of the 30s, whereby Packard was going to concentrate more on smaller cars in the 110 and 120 series, and the lesser cars in the big senior car, what they called senior cars at that time. The design of this car was done by Ray Dietrich. Ray Dietrich never made an ugly car. He had a ability to look at something and make the lines of it work perfectly. He had an outstanding sense of size and proportion, and he could take anything really and make it a beautiful automobile, which is a perfect example that you see here. The hood ornament bears noting that's a Lalique. Rene Lalique was the designer of the hood ornament, which is a glass hood ornament. They were sold as optional accessories. There were, I don't remember how many different designs that you could get in the Lalique. The Eagle is perhaps one of the more common, but not common because they were somewhat rare. Wonderful car. You guys can't see it on the other side, but there's this thing sticking down underneath the car. And somebody asked me, what's that? Is that supposed to be there? Yes, that is the radio antenna of the car. And it's thick and big because of people, of course, driving over curbs and doing crazy things with automobiles. But it's put there so it did not disturb the lines of the automobile. And a radio was a very expensive and very luxurious option in 1937, 38, 39 era of the car. Wonderful car. Congratulations on your award. I'm not going to make you put the top down. It's like an hour-and-a-half process. Great car.
Next up, folks, the prize chosen by you, our People's Choice Award, underwritten by Central Automotive. And again, this prize selected by popular vote of the Concours d'Elegance at Copshaholm attendees. And your winner this year, a 1936 Auburn 852 Phaeton Salon, owned by Harold and Dalen Ames.
Another Auburn that was designed by Gordon Buick. However, this is a four-door Auburn, I call it a convertible Phaeton, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? A Phaeton Salon, I'm sorry. A Phaeton Salon. Now, you heard me tell you earlier that a Phaeton had snap-in side curtains on it. That is true, but E.L. Cord thought the name Phaeton was sexy, so he used it to describe his cars, even though they had roll-up windows. So the rule, it goes to show that the rules can always be broken in the interest of selling automobiles, to say the least. Very handsome car, great color combination, I might add, by the way. And this is a very nice example of one of those 30s Auburns designed by Gordon Buick. Lovely car. Thank you very much.
Next up, we wanted to announce our David Schultz Award winner for the most outstanding CCA Full Classic. This award, underwritten by Kent Marburger and given in memory of David Schultz, a past president of the Classic Car Club of America and a longtime judge here at the Concours d'Elegance at Copshaholm. And our winner for that prize, a 1934 Packard 1108 convertible Victoria with a body by Dietrich, owned by Daniel and Danica Sobieski. And our next prize coming through, our Vivian and Eric LaVine Restorations Award, celebrating the spirit of the hobby. And this prize honors a person or persons who have demonstrated dedication and passion to the classic car hobby through preservation, restoration, and participation in perpetuating automotive heritage. Our winner, a 1934 Packard 12 Coupe, owned by Don Garib.
And before I pass the mic to Travis LaVine, this is what they call a stationary coupe. The top does not go down on the car. It is a Packard 12, so this is a 12-cylinder car, biggest Packard, longest wheelbase, biggest engine, very smooth running V12. In fact, it is said that Enzo Ferrari patterned his 12-cylinder engine after the Packard 12, and I believe that to be true. What we're going to do here is Travis LaVine's going to say a few words. Travis is one of our premier sponsors. I'll get that out. I know it's the end of the day. And he's going to tell us a little bit about our recipient, Don Garib.
Well, I want to say first, thank you everyone for coming out to support the show for the 8th year. This is for you, and you guys make it. It's been a great show field this year, and I am very honored to give this award to Mr. Don Garib. Don has helmed many wonderful restorations, including this car, and I think one more you might have coming up here. Don has sat on boards aplenty. He has sponsored many things through his many years of collecting. He has toured, he has educated, he has spent wonderful money with great restoration shops, and thank you for that.
It's making me sound older.
He looks great for 60. It's awesome. No, Don, I cannot say thank you enough for all you've done for the industry, and you are more than deserving of this award in honor of my parents who have also spent their lives making this industry what it is. So thank you, Mom and Dad, and thank you, Don.
I got started in cars kind of late. I was working, couldn't afford them for a long time. Unfortunately, got to the point where I could do a couple. The first one I found was a 1933 Packard Victoria that was originally owned by the Vanderbilt family. I was so enthralled for it, I bought this rust bucket for about 3 times what it was worth. And I learned for the first time what it cost to restore one of these cars. But anyway, we sorted through for a few years, and we finally got to take it to Pebble Beach. We were really excited. We got out there. We had a 33 Victoria, and there was a 34 Victoria next to us. They told me that it was the LaVine restoration. I kind of looked at it and I said, well, ours had red wheels. I kind of like that better. Then I walked around a little bit. Well, they did that a little better than we did.
mentor to many people, and they've done so many wonderful cars. Salute to them and all the support they've given everybody.
Okay, Matt, our final car.
All right, folks, this is it, the moment we've all been waiting for, the big one. Best of Show, underwritten by Donald L. Jones and Diana E. Davis Jones. And your winner of Best in Show at the 2026 Concours d'Elegance at Copshaholm, a 1929 Duesenberg Model J sports sedan, also owned by Don Garee. Don, congratulations.
Don, I would also like to offer my congratulations and thank you for bringing not one, but two fabulous cars here with us today. Travis, do you have a final comment for the day? And thank you, by the way, for all that you and your family do for this event and for the hobby in general.
Well, again, I know what Don went through on the restoration of this car, which was no easy undertaking. And you're standing before one of the, in my opinion, most beautiful Duesenberg J's that were built, and this is the only Wayman fabric body left. This is a very special car. It was a best-in-class car at Pebble Beach. It's done well overseas. This car has been all over the world, and we're very honored to have it here. So thank you all again for being a part of this show. Don, congratulations. And everyone have a good rest of your weekend.
Thank you, Travis. Matt, thank you as well. It's a wrap for you and I.
Excellent, thank you, Bill. Wonderful afternoon.
Great working with you here today, and we like our new 10. It's a lot cooler than we've had in the past. But congratulations to Don. We appreciate him being here. Thank you to all of you, to our sponsors, to our car owners, judges, visitors, you, our guests that are here, been here today. Thank you so much. We'll be back next year for Copshaholm Concours d'Elegance number 9. My name is Bill Rothermel. I will see you. Hopefully I'll be invited back, as Matt feels the same way. God bless all of you. God bless America. And please drive safe.